Aisha pushed open the staff entrance with her shoulder, balancing her lunchbox and a worn navy sweater. The evening air was still warm, and the city lights had already started blinking against the dusky sky. Inside the hospital lobby, the familiar smell of antiseptic and warm tea greeted her. She checked the wall clock, 6:48 p.m., 12 minutes to the night shift. She walked quickly to the lockers, slipped into soft-soled shoes, and clipped on her name badge. Her phone buzzed, a message from her mother, a simple prayer for a calm night. Aisha smiled, typed back a heart, and set the phone to silent. The medical ward throbbed with a steady rhythm, monitors pulsing, carts rolling, low voices at the nursing station. This hospital sat in the middle of a busy city, and it never truly slept. It served families from crowded neighborhoods, travelers from the bus station, and tourists who got sick in strange places. After a recent festival week, the wards were full, not just with new patients, but with tired staff. A notice on the whiteboard behind the station made Aisha pause. Blood bank. At critical levels. Please conserve. Encourage donors. She felt the words settle in her chest. They had heard this before, but tonight it sounded sharper. Aisha hung her sweater on the back of her chair and greeted the day shift nurse handing over the duty list. Any crises on the way? Aisha asked, keeping her tone light. Not yet, the nurse replied, yawning. But the emergency department is crowded. Be ready. She tapped the whiteboard again. And yes, the blood bank is very low. They are asking staff who can donate to consider it this week. Aisha nodded. She knew her blood type. She kept track of small facts like that. She also knew she was healthy, even if she felt worn out. Work had been extra heavy since she picked up more shifts to help with bills and her mother's medicines. Still, she felt steady inside. She liked the feeling of being useful, of helping a team move as one. Her old nursing teacher's words came back to her. In the middle of noise, be the calm. Her first hour slipped by in a rhythm of small tasks that mattered. She adjusted an IV for an older woman recovering from surgery, making sure the flow was smooth and the patient could rest. She coached a junior nurse, Sana, through a blood pressure check on a teenage boy and showed her how to explain each step to keep the boy relaxed. She wiped the edge of a monitor screen, cleaned a small spill, and set the bed breaks for a gentleman who liked to forget rules. These acts looked simple from far away, but Aisha knew they made nights safer. Safety was not only big rescues, it was also the quiet prevention of small mistakes. At 8:10 p.m., the ward quieted just for a moment. Aisha took a sip of plain tea from the thermos she brought from home. She looked out the window at a slice of the city. Traffic was growing thinner, but the hospital lights made their own sunrise, bright and clear. Her thoughts drifted to her mother's laugh, to the plant on their kitchen window that refused to die, and to the rent due at the end of the month. She did a quick mental math of what she had saved from extra shifts. It was not much, but it was movement. She set the cup down and stood. Night shifts were not for sitting. By 9:30 p.m., more patients arrived from the emergency department for overnight observation. A young teacher who fainted in class, a shopkeeper with chest discomfort under investigation, a child with a fever that finally broke after fluids and rest. Aisha moved between beds with careful steps, explaining, listening, writing notes with neat letters. She checked a machine's battery level, then changed a pulse oximeter probe that blinked in protest. Little by little, the ward settled into a late evening pace. A lab technician named Rafi stopped by with a stack of labels. "We're tightening distribution," he said in a low voice. "O negative is almost out. Some other types are low too. If you're ordering blood tonight, call me directly so we can prioritize." "Understood," Aisha said. "Thanks for telling us." She appreciated clear, honest updates. It was easier to plan with real numbers. She turned to Sana and explained how to note urgency levels in requests and how to choose the right tubing for different products. Sana listened with wide eyes and took notes. Aisha liked her curiosity. It reminded her of herself a few years ago, when everything had felt like a dance learned in a hurry. At 10:15 p.m., a short training alarm beeped near the station. A routine drill. The team gathered fast. Aisha ran through her mental checklist: airway, breathing, circulation, monitors, suction, oxygen, code cart position, quick paths to the lift if a transfer was needed. She watched as Sana located the oxygen mask without fumbling. A small smile touched Aisha's face. Practice meant calm later. They ended the drill with a round of quick questions, and then the ward returned to normal. Aisha grabbed a banana from her bag and took 2 bites between tasks. She checked the fluids cupboard and wrote down supplies to restock: normal saline, dressing kits, gloves in medium sizes. She asked the porter to bring fresh blankets from linen. The night air in the ward could feel cool to patients, and warm blankets were not a luxury. They were comfort, which often lowered anxiety and made pain easier to manage. Comfort was part of care too. Around 11:30 p.m., the emergency department called. The voice was steady but quick. Heads up. Possible trauma case may need a bed in your unit after surgery. Significant blood loss reported at the scene. No name yet. Estimated arrival after midnight. Will update. Aisha wrote the details on a sticky note and pressed it to the edge of her clipboard. She did not like to scare teams, but she believed in early preparation. She walked through the unit and quietly checked with each nurse, aligning tasks for the next hour so that hands would be free if the call came again. She asked Rafi over the phone about instant availability if a request was marked urgent. He sighed but promised he would do his best. "We will triage by need," he said. "Call me direct." Before midnight, Aisha took a few minutes to breathe and stretch her shoulders. She thought about why she stayed in this work. It was not for praise. In truth, there was little of that. It was for moments of relief on a worried face, for a parent who slept because the nurse said, "It is okay. I am here." Her father used to say something when she was small: "A small hand can hold a heavy bag if it holds it at the right spot." She smiled at the memory. In nursing, the right spot was often preparation. Just after 12:20 a.m., the ambulance siren floated up from the street. Faint at first, then closer, weaving through traffic. A call came over the ward phone again. "Ambulance inbound now. Adult male, non-responsive at pickup, pressure low, working to stabilize. ETA 5 minutes. The nurse at the station glanced at Aisha. Without being told, Aisha moved into action. She alerted the on-call surgical resident and the anesthetist. She guided Sana to pull the crash cart to an easy corner and check the defibrillator power while keeping the path clear. She asked another colleague to prepare warm IV fluids, ready to hang, and to lay out 2 large bore cannulas alongside the smaller ones. She phoned the blood bank once more. "This may be urgent," she said gently. "Please be ready to release any safe units you can." Rafi's voice carried tired focus. "We'll be ready." In the ward, Aisha double-checked labels on prepped kits, counting softly to herself. She checked the oxygen tubing and kept an extra non-rebreather mask folded neatly on top of the pack. She glanced at the clock, 12:26 a.m. She felt the weight of the night, but it was not a heavy fear. It was a clear sense of order, one step, then the next. She met Sana's eyes. "We'll go step by step," she said. "No rush that breaks safety. Quick, but clean." Sana nodded, her breath steadying at the words. The rest of the team fell into quiet readiness. The lighting in the corridor looked brighter than usual, or maybe Aisha only noticed it more. She rolled her shoulders and whispered a short prayer. In her heart, one line she said before every hard moment: "Please keep all hands steady." Footsteps and wheels echoed down the hallway before the ambulance doors opened. Aisha heard the murmur of the paramedics even before she saw them. She stepped forward to meet them at the entrance, a clipboard in one hand and the other free to guide the gurney. The paramedic's eyes met hers, and in that brief look was a whole message: urgent but not chaos. The doors parted. The gurney came through. The night felt like it held its breath for a second. Aisha squared her shoulders, placed a calm hand on the railing, and said the first words that always set the tone. "We've got you. Let's move together." "You said, Part 2. Co-expand Cairo without heading. 1,300 words, my in simple." The gurney rolled in, and Aisha matched the paramedic's pace, keeping her voice steady and clear. "Adult male, found at a roadside incident," the lead paramedic said as they moved. "Low pressure on scene, oxygen given, IV started, responsive, to pain only." Aisha repeated the words to the team so everyone heard the same facts. She walked on the left side of the gurney, one hand on the railing and the other ready to adjust the oxygen mask if needed. The patient's face looked pale under the corridor lights. She noted the bluish tinge of cold skin and the slow rise of his chest. Not many details yet, no name, only the present moment. They turned into the rapid response bay. The surgical resident arrived at the same time, pulling on gloves. The anesthetist checked the airway and made a simple plan. Keep oxygen flowing, monitor for changes, prepare to assist breathing if needed. Aisha called out the room setup like a quiet conductor. Suction ready, oxygen connected, monitor on, blood pressure cuff placed, pulse oximeter on the finger, temperature probe underarm, warm blankets at the foot of the bed. She guided Sana to start recording times and key steps. "Write the time we received him," Aisha said softly. "Write the first set of vital signs." The first reading showed a pressure lower than they liked. The pulse was fast but not wild. Aisha locked eyes with the anesthetist, who gave a small nod. "Keep going." She held the patient's wrist for a second and felt a weak but present rhythm, a thin thread that said, "I am still here." She loosened the blanket just enough to help the team place lines, then recovered him to keep warmth. Warmth mattered. Warmth could make a hard night kinder to a body. Rafi from the lab appeared in the doorway, already alerted by her earlier call. "We have some units," he said quickly, "but the bank is tight. Send the sample now." Aisha had the sample tube ready and labeled. She passed it to him while the resident gave orders: lab tests, type and screen, cross-match, and call for the first compatible unit if needed. The resident's voice was calm. Calm spreads like light, Aisha thought. The patient's breathing softened as the oxygen mask settled. The anesthetist adjusted the flow and watched the chest. The surgical resident examined the abdomen with light hands, asked for a quick scan, and spoke to the on-call consultant by phone. The plan formed: urgent surgery likely, transfer to the operating room as soon as it was ready. Aisha repeated the plan to the team in simple words. "We will move to surgery, keep him warm, keep oxygen steady, keep the path clear." She asked Sana to walk the route and check for any carts or stands that might block wheels. She asked another nurse to call the lift in advance and hold the door. From the corner of the room, Aisha dialed the blood bank again, her voice low but firm. "We are moving to the operating room soon. Please prioritize if you can." Rafi's answer was respectful and honest. "We will, but we are at the edge tonight. The drives after the festival were slow. If any staff can donate this week, it would help the next cases too." Aisha looked at the patient and then at the whiteboard notice that had greeted her hours earlier. She knew her blood type. She knew she was eligible. She also knew there were rules. She could not leave at a random moment if the team needed her, and she would have to rest after donating. She turned to the charge nurse, a steady woman named Farah, and spoke simply. "If you approve, I can donate tonight between the transfer and the surgery start. I will do it here in the staff donor room. I'll rest, hydrate, and return for non-heavy tasks. You can reassign me if needed." Farah looked at the board. Team members were in place. The OR was taking over in minutes, and Aisha had already prepared them well. Farah weighed the plan like a careful scale and nodded. "Yes, do it the safe way. Tell the donor nurse your plan, and drink water." Aisha informed the donor room, then went back to the bedside as they made the move. She and Sana kept the patient covered, adjusted lines with gentle hands, and spoke to him even though he did not answer. "You are safe," Aisha said softly. "We are taking you to surgery." Sometimes hearing helped even when words could not be returned. The lift doors opened, they rolled in, and Aisha watched the numbers climb like quiet steps. In the operating room foyer, she passed the handover to the OR nurses with clear, short points. Time in, vital signs trend, oxygen flow, fluids hung, lab sent, Blood bank notified. The resident signed consent with the appropriate legal process and moved in with the anesthetist. Aisha stood for a moment, hands together, as the patient disappeared behind the swinging door. Then she turned. The next piece of the plan waited for her. The staff donor room lived in a quiet corner near the lab. The walls were soft blue, with posters about hydration and healthy iron. The donor nurse, a kind man with silver hair, greeted her by name. "You're here on a busy night," he said gently. "Thank you." He did the quick checks. A health questionnaire, a small finger prick to check hemoglobin, pulse, and blood pressure readings. He spoke each step in simple words and waited for her nod. Aisha read the consent form, signed it, and read the safety lines again. She sent a short text to Farah. "Starting now." Farah replied, "Good, we're covered." That one word, covered, settled Aisha's heart. The donation began. Aisha lay back on the cushioned chair and watched a tiny red light blink on the machine. The donor nurse reminded her to breathe slowly and squeeze the stress ball in her palm at a steady rhythm. "Think of a calm place," he suggested with a small smile. Aisha thought of her mother in the kitchen, stirring tea and humming a tune, from old days. She thought of the plant on the windowsill, bright green against the city dust. Her breath found a smooth line. The nurse talked about the process in plain language. "Your donation helps the whole community. Tonight the bank is tight, but this unit will go through all the checks before it is used. For the patient in surgery now, we will release tested units that are already ready. Your act makes sure we can keep releasing safely." Aisha appreciated his honest words. She did not need a heroic story. She needed truth. It made her feel steady and useful at the same time. The machine hummed, the bag filled at an even pace. Aisha kept squeezing the stress ball and let her mind clear. She whispered a short prayer for the man in surgery. She did not know his name, his work, or his story, but she knew he had people somewhere who would be waiting. A child, a friend, a neighbor, someone who would hear a phone ring and feel their breath catch. She imagined the moment when a surgeon would say, "He is stable for now," and how that sentence could feel like a sunrise after a long night. The donation finished. The nurse capped the line, labeled the bag, and thanked her again. He gave her water and a small packet of biscuits. 10 minutes of rest, he reminded her, then stand slowly. Aisha nodded and took small sips of water. She felt light but not dizzy. She set a timer on her watch and did not rush it. When the timer buzzed, she stood carefully and tested her balance. All good. She signed the final note and sent another message to Farah. Done. Returning for light duties. Back on the ward, the pace was different. Without the gurney and the siren, the night returned to its watchful rhythm. Aisha avoided heavy lifting and let others handle quick transfers. She checked charts for accuracy, updated the board, and answered families' routine questions for the patients already on the unit. She also watched her junior colleague, Sana, for signs of fatigue. Drink water, Aisha told her softly, offering a bottle. Sit for 2 minutes if you can. It helps more than you think. Sana smiled, grateful for permission to be human. Every hour, Aisha walked past the OR desk and looked for updates. The case was long. The surgical team moved like a quiet wave inside the room. The anesthetist kept a steady guard. Rafi from the lab sent a message. Units delivered. Monitoring supply. Aisha replied with 2 words. Thank you. She thought of the donors who had given earlier in the week, and of the people who would give tomorrow. Community was built this way, through small, steady acts. Near 3 a.m., Farah came by with a gentle question. How are you feeling? Aisha answered truthfully. A little tired, but steady. Farah looked at her eyes and posture. Good. Do simple tasks only. She placed a hand on Aisha's shoulder for 1 second, a small sign of care that said more than words. Leadership could be as soft as a hand on a shoulder, Aisha thought. Around 4:10 a.m., the OR called the ward. The voice was calm. Patient is stable for transfer to ICU after recovery. Please prepare a quiet pathway. Aisha thanked them and began to set the route. She asked the porter to check the lift again. She alerted the ICU nurse on duty so they could be ready. She placed warm blankets on the transfer bed, checked the oxygen tank, and placed a small folder for the handover notes. She guided Sana through the checklist, monitoring cables ready, IV lines clear and not tangled, labels correct and readable, emergency pack clipped at the head of the bed. When the doors opened and the OR team brought the patient out, Aisha saw the gentle rise of his chest and the calm lines on the monitor. There was a peace to the scene that had not been there before. Surgery was over. A step had been taken. The anesthetist gave the summary in clear words. Aisha listened without interrupting, then repeated the key points back to confirm. She walked with the team to the ICU, where the night staff, bright-eyed despite the hour, received the patient like a relay handoff in a quiet race. Inside the ICU, the room was spacious. Morning sunlight slid across the kitchen tiles as Aisha stirred tea for her mother. Her hands moved slowly. Her body still felt the long night. The plant on the window looked fresh after a small drink of water. Her mother placed a plate of toast on the table and studied Aisha's face. "You worked hard," she said kindly. Aisha smiled and nodded. She did not tell every detail, only that they had helped a man in trouble, and that many hands made it possible. After breakfast, she closed the curtains and let sleep take her in a soft wave. When the alarm rang in the late afternoon, she stretched her shoulders and felt the ordinary ache of a nurse's life, the honest kind that comes from doing what needs to be done. On her way to the evening shift, Aisha noticed 2 news vans parked along the street near the hospital gate, their antennas pointed at the blue sky. A guard guided them to stay clear of the entrance. Inside, the lobby looked normal, but there was a small cluster of people reading a notice board about blood donation. A few had rolled up sleeves and stickers that read, "I gave today." It made Aisha's heart warm. She headed to the lockers, changed into her scrubs, and tied her hair neatly. When she reached the nursing station, Sana waved, eyes bright. "The patient from last night," Sana whispered. "He has a name now. Omar Rahman. People know him. He's a CEO." Aisha paused. The name sounded familiar from local headlines. She kept her voice calm. "Is he stable?" Sana nodded. "ICU says he is stable and resting." Aisha felt a gentle relief wash over her, the kind that is quiet and simple. Life was still in place. She looked at the whiteboard. A typed note from hospital communications reminded staff, "Protect patient privacy. No photos. No social media." Posts. Direct media questions to the communications office. It was standard, but it felt extra clear today. Farah, the charge nurse, called Aisha into the small office. The door closed softly. The communications officer, Ms. Patel, stood beside Farah with a kind, professional smile. "Thank you for your work last night," Ms. Patel said. "We expect media interest for a few days because of who the patient is. Our first goal is privacy and steady care. The family is being contacted. We will handle all public statements." She looked at Aisha with care. "We heard that a staff member donated blood last night. We are not naming anyone, and we will not unless that person chooses to be recognized internally. Even then, we will keep it quiet." Aisha listened and chose her words. "I prefer not to be named in public," she said. "If you need to tell leadership internally, I consent, but I want the focus to stay on the whole team." Farah nodded with approval. Ms. Patel made a simple note. There was no pressure in the room, only clarity. "Understood," Ms. Patel said. "If Mr. Rahman or his family ask to thank the team, we will arrange a short and proper visit later, following ethics and privacy rules. No personal gifts to individual staff. If there is any support, it must go through official channels for the hospital." Back at the station, Aisha returned to her rounds. She adjusted a pillow for a grandmother who liked to sit up when she read. She spoke softly to a young man worried about a test result and explained the steps ahead. She checked labels, wrote neat notes, and made sure the supply cupboard had what the next set of hands would need. Work moved forward in its usual rhythm, and that felt right. The bright lights, the gentle beeps, the careful steps. This was where good days were built, one small task at a time. Near 8 p.m., the ICU nurse on duty phoned the ward. "Quick update," he said. "Mr. Rahman is doing well for now. He asked if he can send thanks to the team. We told him to rest and speak to communications later." The nurse's voice was warm. He also asked if a small child can visit tomorrow with a guardian. He is a single dad. Aisha said, "Thank you for telling us," and wrote a small note. Single dad. Somewhere a child was waiting and worrying. She pictured a boy holding a school backpack a little tighter than usual, trying to be brave. A tender feeling rose in her chest, the kind that is both protective and respectful. An hour later, Ms. Patel sent a brief message to the ward. "If any media approach you, kindly direct them to me. Do not engage. We appreciate your care." Aisha appreciated the clear boundaries. Boundaries protect everyone: the patient, the staff, the hospital, and the truth. She moved through the night with steady hands. She taught Sana a small trick for organizing a medication tray. Always left to right, double check, then pause a breath before you go. Sana practiced the method and smiled at how it slowed her mind in a good way. During a short break, Aisha scrolled her phone for 2 minutes. A local news site had a headline with nothing personal, only, "Local business leader hospitalized after. Incident. Condition stable." There were no details and no names of staff, which made Aisha feel better. In the comments, some people wrote kind words about blood donation. One wrote, "I'm booking an appointment tomorrow." Aisha locked her phone and took a sip of water. She felt tired, yes, but also grounded. It is a good thing when a community remembers to give. The next afternoon, on her off hours, Aisha stopped by the hospital chapel, a quiet place with simple wooden benches and soft light. She sat for a minute, saying nothing, just feeling the stillness that held the building together. On the way out, she saw Ms. Patel again, who said, "There may be a short thank you visit tomorrow on the unit you worked in. It will be private, no cameras, only a note of gratitude to the team. Would you be comfortable being present as part of the team? We will not identify you as the donor unless you give consent again on the day." Aisha thought carefully. "I can be present with the team," she said, "but I still prefer no spotlight." Ms. Patel gave an understanding nod. "We will keep it simple." The next day came with a soft morning light. The visit was set for late afternoon, a time chosen to be gentle on the unit and not interrupt. Care. Aisha finished her tasks early so others could step in if the visit overlapped with something urgent. The small conference room by the ward had a long table and a window that looked out at a tree with bright green leaves. A plate of simple biscuits and a pot of tea sat in the corner. Farah stood beside Ms. Patel and the medical team, steady and calm. When the door opened, a man in a plain sweater and loose coat walked in with careful steps. His face was a little pale, but his eyes were clear. This was Omar Rahman. He did not bring a crowd. Only a family friend walked with him, and a hospital aide followed with a chair. A small boy stood at the door holding the hand of an older relative. He stared at the room with big, brave eyes. Omar looked at the child with a gentle smile and then at the staff. "Thank you," he said simply. His voice was warm and soft. "Please forgive me if I do not say many words. I am still recovering. But I want to say this. You carried me through a night I do not remember. You also carried my son through it, because he still has his father today." No one moved for a second. Then Farah stepped forward and answered in steady words. "We are grateful you are recovering. This was a team effort. Many people helped. We accept your thanks on behalf of everyone." The boy shifted his weight and looked at the biscuits with shy interest. Aisha's heart softened. Ms. Patel, catching the moment, smiled and said, "Please, have a biscuit." The older relative nodded his permission, The boy took one and smiled with crumbs on his lip. A small human moment. It made the room feel like a living room instead of a formal place. Omar reached into his coat pocket and brought out a folded paper. I wrote a short note, he said. I am giving a simple thank you letter to the hospital to keep in your staff room. No names, only gratitude for the whole team. He handed the letter to Ms. Patel, who accepted it on behalf of the staff. Then he added, I also asked Ms. Patel how I can support without crossing any lines. I do not want to give anyone a personal gift or make anyone uncomfortable. I want to help the system that helped me. Farah and Ms. Patel shared a brief look of respect. We will follow the rules and set a proper path, Ms. Patel said. For now, please focus on your health. Omar nodded and looked at each person in the room as if he was memorizing faces. His eyes met Aisha's for a second. She gave a small nod, nothing more, and he gave a small nod back. No one in the room said who had donated blood. It did not need to be said. The team was enough. When the short visit ended, the boy waved a small, shy goodbye from the doorway. Aisha waved back with a gentle smile and then returned to her tasks. She refilled hand sanitizer bottles, checked on a patient who liked to talk about cricket scores, and helped a woman video call her daughter. The hospital moved on, as it always does, folding big moments into steady routine. That is how care remains strong, by returning to the basics after the storm has passed. Later that evening, Aisha's supervisor called her into the office again. There sat the nursing director, a thoughtful person with kind eyes. We are proud of the unit, the director said. We also want to recognize quiet acts that make nights safer. With your permission, we would like to note, only in your personnel file and in a private staff bulletin, that you volunteered to donate on a critical night. No public posting, no social media, no press, only an internal note that says, thank you. Aisha took a breath and considered. Recognition can be a good thing if it stays humble and true. Yes, she said. I accept an internal note. Please keep it simple, and please say it was a team effort. The director smiled. We will. The week after the quiet thank you visit, the hospital moved like a river after rain. Strong, steady, full of small waves. Aisha returned to her routines with calm focus. She checked charts with neat handwriting. She guided Sana through a line, change without tugging the skin. She sat with an older man who felt lonely at night and listened to a short story from his childhood until his eyes softened and sleep came. These were the kinds of things that did not make news. They made healing. But the outside world did not sleep either. A blog post with shaky facts appeared one morning. It said a mystery nurse had saved a rich CEO and now might get special rewards. The words were not true in the way they were written, but rumors do not wait for truth. A few comments on social media grew into long threads. Someone even wrote, "This hospital only cares because he is a CEO." Aisha saw a screenshot in a staff chat and felt a small stone settle in her chest. She was not angry. She was sad because hard work can be misunderstood when seen from far away. Ms. Patel, the communications officer, moved fast and calm. She shared a simple internal note. We protect patient privacy. We protect staff privacy. Care is given to all by need. No personal gifts are allowed for staff. Any support goes through official channels to help the whole system. Please direct questions to communications. Farah spoke to the team in gentle words. We do good work. Stay steady. Do not argue online. Let the hospital speak for us. Aisha breathed easier. Rules are not cold when they protect people. They are warm fences that keep trust safe. In the middle of this noise, a real task appeared. The hospital planned a blood drive for the next Friday, and the director asked Aisha to help with planning along with 2 other nurses and a lab lead. It is part of your normal duties, the director said. Not a spotlight. You are good at checklists and clear teaching. That is what we need. Aisha accepted. Work with purpose was a good answer to gossip. They met in a small conference room with a window that showed a slice of sky. On paper, Aisha drew a simple flow. Welcome desk, health questions, small finger, prick, donation chairs, rest area with juice and biscuits, exit. She added notes. Explain steps in plain words, smile. Give permission to say no at any point. Watch for dizziness, offer water. Give a thank you sticker and a clear, what to expect. Sheet. The lab lead Rafi added his part. Label bags clearly, keep the cold chain, double check every number. The other nurses added ideas for comfort. Soft music, warm blankets if the room feels cool, and a sign that says, thank you for helping many strangers at once. Aisha wrote a short flyer in simple English. Who can donate? Who should wait? How long it takes and how it helps. She avoided dramatic words. She chose clear ones. Your blood can help someone breathe easier tonight. Ms. Patel arranged to share the flyer on the hospital website and with nearby cafes, schools, and the bus station. A small bakery offered a tray of simple cookies. The owner said, my sister needed blood last year. This is my thank you. On Thursday night, the day before the drive, Aisha walked the space with tape and signs. She measured the path so wheelchairs could pass. She set the chairs so donors would not watch needles if they did not want to. She placed a small plant on a table to make the room feel kind. She trained volunteers on gentle scripts. Greet people with a smile. If someone is scared, say, it is okay to feel that way. We will go step by step. You can stop any time. Offer water before and after. Watch faces for pale skin or faraway eyes. If you see that, let a nurse know. At home that night, Aisha and her mother planned their week's meals. Then an envelope arrived by mail, her mother's dentist estimate. The price was higher than they had hoped. Aisha checked the numbers twice. They could pay by cutting other costs, but it would be tight, and the pain might grow if they waited. Farah had mentioned a new staff wellness and emergency fund that leadership was setting up with the hospital foundation. It was funded by many sources, small staff donations, an end-of-year gift from alumni, and a new pledge from a local company that wanted no names, only a promise to help workers in need. The rules were clear. A committee decides, no single leader can approve, no link to one event, and the help is modest but real. Aisha hesitated. She had helped plan the blood drive and had shared ideas for the wellness fund. Would applying be fair? She thought about it for a long time. The next morning, she spoke to Farah in quiet words. I feel unsure about applying. I was part of the planning group. Farah, steady as always, answered with care. The rules already cover this. The committee is separate. They do not take suggestions from planners. Many staff will apply over time. The fund is for needs like this. Use the system we are building. That is what makes it right. Aisha nodded slowly. She filled out the form with simple facts and attached the dentist estimate. She asked for a partial grant, not the full cost, because she could cover some herself if she cut a few extras. She felt calm after sending it. Whatever the result, she had followed the process, not a favor. Blood drive day arrived with bright sun and long shadows. Before the doors opened, Aisha stood with the team and said one sentence. Be kind. Be clear, be calm. The first donor was a bus driver who had never given before. His hands were rough from long hours on the road. He said, I always wanted to do this. My schedule made it hard. Aisha thanked him and told him each step. He squeezed the stress ball and looked at the plant on the table instead of the needle. When it was over, he laughed with relief and ate a biscuit like it was a medal. Then came a school teacher who had given many times. She knew the routine and helped a nervous college student relax by talking about music. The hospital cook arrived, in his white cap, joking that he came for the cookies even though he baked better ones. 2 security guards came together and took turns. Aisha moved through the room like gentle wind, checking labels, adjusting a pillow, pouring water, saying, You did well, and meaning it. Around noon, a small challenge came. The lights flickered. The backup kept the machines safe, but the room felt different for a moment. Fear can rise in quiet ways. Aisha lifted her voice in a calm tone. All is okay. The machines are safe. We will pause new starts for 2 minutes and then continue. She walked to each chair, made eye contact, and gave a small nod. The flicker passed. The rhythm returned. Later, a first-time donor finished and then stood up too fast. His face went pale and he swayed. Aisha and a volunteer guided him back to the chair with soft hands. "No rush," Aisha said. "Your body is just saying, please sit a bit longer. Have a sip." She placed a cool cloth on his forehead and waited until color returned. He smiled after a while, a little embarrassed. "Thank you for not making a big scene," he said. Aisha smiled back. "We make small scenes here. They are kinder." By late afternoon, the donation boxes were full, and the lab team moved like careful dancers to store and carry the units. Rafi checked off names and numbers twice. "This will help many," he said in a tired but happy voice. A count on the board showed a strong number for one day. Aisha thanked every volunteer with a handshake and a look that said, "I see you." Kindness is not only words, it is also attention. On her way out, her phone buzzed. An email from the Wellness Fund Committee sat in her inbox. She opened it with a steady breath. The committee had approved a partial grant for her mother's dental care, the amount she had requested. The note was simple. "We hope this brings relief. Thank you for your service to patients and for applying through the proper process." Aisha felt her chest loosen. She showed the email to Farah, who smiled with quiet joy. "Good," Farah said. "Use it well. That is what the fund is for." Aisha wrote a short thank you note back to the committee with no extra words, and she did not speak of it to anyone else. That evening, as the sun lowered, Ms. Patel stopped by with an update about the earlier rumor. "We issued a clear statement," she said. "People moved on. The best story today is the blood drive." She held out a page with a simple headline for the hospital bulletin. "Thank you to our donors, staff, families, neighbors." The photo showed only hands passing a cup of water, no faces, no drama. Aisha liked it very much. At home, Aisha and her mother celebrated with a simple dinner, rice, lentils, and a small salad. They laughed about a cooking mistake from years ago and talked about the dentist appointment they could now book. Her mother looked at her with soft pride. "You keep choosing the slow, good path," her mother said. "It is not loud, but it is strong." In the days that followed, the hospital's new partnership with the local company took shape, through the foundation, not through any person. The company asked for no special favors and gave none. They pledged to sponsor quarterly blood drives and add a small childcare grant for night shift workers. The forms were the same for everyone. Aisha attended one planning call as a nurse representative and kept her camera off because the call did not need faces, only clear plans. She suggested adding a short rest corner for parents who came after school drop-off. The idea was accepted. Not everything was smooth. One afternoon, a colleague teased Aisha in a way that stung. "Maybe you will be on TV next," he said with a laugh, then added, "The CEO nurse." The words were meant as a joke, but jokes can carry weight. Aisha did not snap back. She looked at him with a steady gaze and said, "We saved a father's life. Many hands did." A week later, the city woke up to a soft rain, and Aisha stood at the kitchen sink watching drops race down the glass. Her mother had just come back from the dentist. The first stage of the treatment was done. The pain was already less, and the next visit was booked. Aisha felt a knot inside her chest loosen. She made tea and placed a warm cup in her mother's hands. They did not say many words. Relief sometimes needs quiet more than talk. After breakfast, Aisha opened her study notebook. The exam she had planned for months was now near. She read simple notes she had made for herself. Slow is smooth, smooth is safe. Speak clear, not loud. Write facts, not fears. She practiced a few case questions, set a timer, and checked her answers. She did not demand perfection from herself. She asked for steady steps. That was enough. At the hospital, a new group of junior nurses had joined the unit for orientation. Farah asked Aisha to take the first hour. Aisha wrote 3 short sentences on the whiteboard. Breathe first, see the whole room, speak one step at a time. She told a small story about a busy night long before this month, when a simple pause to check a monitor saved a patient from a fall. The juniors listened with wide eyes. Aisha kept her words plain and kind. She did not tell them her story from the other week. She told them the same truth. No night is carried by one person. It is carried by a team that trusts each other. Sana sat in the back, smiling, and passed out small cards Aisha had made. Each card had a 5-step checklist for urgent moments. The last line on each card said, "Ask for help early." After the hour, a junior nurse came up and said, "I was scared before. I am still a little scared, but now I know what to do first." Aisha nodded. Being a little scared is okay. It keeps you careful. Just don't be alone in it. In the ICU, Omar's recovery moved forward day by day. The tube came out, the monitors went from many to few, and then from few to none. The hospital communications team handled each step with care. One afternoon, Ms. Patel stopped by the ward and spoke to Farah with a grateful smile. "Mr. Rahman has been discharged." He asked again how to support in a fair way. The foundation set up a simple path. He made a quiet pledge for the blood drives and the night shift childcare grant. Same rules for all, no names. He asked that we keep focus on the system, not on him. Farah thanked her. Aisha heard the update while stocking supplies and felt calm. It was good when boundaries held and kindness found a clean channel. A few days later, an internal bulletin appeared in the staff room. It had a small headline: "Thank you to our donors, partners, and teams." The photo showed a cooler box being carried by 2 pairs of hands. Under the photo, a short paragraph said the first monthly drive had met its goal and that the next one was planned for 6 weeks later. It also said a new night shift family corner would start in the staff lounge, a small shelf of children's books for parents who bring kids at shift change, a kettle for warm milk, and a quiet chair for short naps. Aisha smiled. Small things make long hours softer. One evening, between rounds, Rafi came by with news that made his eyes shine. "The blood supply is stable this week," he said. "Not overflowing, but steady. The calls and the drives helped." He paused and added, "Also, the school down the road asked for a short talk during their health week. They want someone to explain blood donation in simple words. Would you consider going as part of your educator hours?" Aisha thought of high school students with curious minds and nervous jokes. She nodded. "Yes, I will go." On the day of the school visit, Aisha stood in front of a room of teenagers who were still learning to sit still. She kept it friendly and plain. She showed a simple picture of how blood moves through the body like a river. She said what to expect in a donation chair: questions, a small finger prick, a needle that feels like a quick pinch, and a rest with juice and biscuits. She told them the truth with no drama. "If you feel scared, tell us. We will help you. If you are not ready, come back another day. Your choice matters." A teacher thanked her after and said that was clear. Clear was exactly the word Aisha had hoped to hear. At home that week, Aisha's mother made a sweet dish to celebrate the first dentist visit and the good news at work. They ate slowly and laughed about a story from years ago when Aisha tried to bake and forgot the sugar. They made a small promise to each other: to find one simple joy in every week, even if it is only a long walk at sunset or a new song on the radio. On a quiet afternoon, the exam results arrived by email. Aisha stood in the corridor outside the staff room, opened her phone and read the line twice to be sure. She had passed. Her chest filled with warm air and then let it out in a long, happy breath. Farah happened to be walking by. Aisha showed her the screen. Farah smiled bright and said, "You earned this." A few days later, the hospital posted an internal note. Aisha would move into a senior nurse educator role part-time while still working some shifts on the ward. The note was short and kind. It praised her clear teaching and calm leadership. It did not mention any single night. It didn't need to. Aisha did not throw a party. She bought a new pair of soft shoes for long hours and brought a box of simple biscuits to share with the team. She wrote a thank you card to Farah, to the director, and to the lab team for teaching her things that were not in any book. She texted her mother, "We did it." Her mother replied with a small heart and the words, "Proud of you." In her new educator hours, Aisha began to write a slim booklet for the hospital's new staff. She called it Calm in a Busy Room. It had short chapters with checklists, simple drawings, and true stories with names and details removed. One chapter was about setting up a room for a safe transfer. Another was about speaking to families with honesty and care. One chapter was titled When Supplies Run Low, and it taught how to plan, how to call early, and how to work with the lab as partners. The last page held a sentence she believed with her whole heart. Kindness is a skill. Practice it. One afternoon, as she walked past the ICU, Aisha saw the child's drawing still pinned near the desk, now next to a few more thank you notes. She stopped to look for a second. Just then, a small voice said, "Excuse me." She turned. It was the same boy she had seen in the conference room weeks before, a little taller in her memory now. He stood with his older relative holding a sealed envelope addressed to the ICU and nurses. The relative said, "We came to drop a thank you card. We will not disturb you. We just wanted to say we are doing okay." Aisha smiled and said, "Your card will mean a lot." The boy looked at her and said, "My father reads to me every night now. He says thank you to the people here." Aisha's eyes softened. "Tell him we wish him good health," she said. The boy nodded, and they left with a small wave. Aisha watched them go, grateful for the simple shape of the moment. Weeks passed. The rumor storms on the internet faded as they always do. What stayed was work. New patients came, old patients returned to say hello, and the hospital kept its rhythm. The night shift family corner became a small island of comfort. The plant in the donor room grew a new leaf. The staff wellness fund helped a porter fix his broken glasses and a clerk repair a scooter. The committee kept careful notes and made honest choices. No one asked for special favor. No one gave it. This made the help feel safe. One evening near sunset, Aisha finished a class with juniors on de-escalation. She taught them simple lines to lower heat in a tense room. "I hear you. Let us take one step at a time. Here is what we can do now." After class, Sana brought her a plain notebook with a blue cover. "For your next ideas," Sana said, smiling shyly. Aisha laughed. "There will be many," she said. The notebook opened to a blank first page that felt like a fresh morning. On her way home, Aisha passed a small poster on the hospital gate. "Next blood drive, all welcome." The date and time were printed in clear letters. She saw a group of volunteers taping down the corners so the wind would not curl it. She stopped to help press the tape smooth. The glue stuck to her fingers. She rubbed them together and laughed. Small tasks. Many hands. That was the story. That night, she and her mother sat on the balcony with 2 cups of tea. The air was cool after a hot day. Voices rose and fell from the street below. A vendor packing up, a child counting steps, a scooter buzzing by. Aisha told her mother about the exam, the booklet, the school talk, and the boy and his card. Her mother listened with a soft smile and then said, "You wanted a life with meaning. It looks like you are living it, one page at a time." Aisha looked up at the sky. The first star had appeared small and steady. She thought of all the people whose lives had touched hers this month. The bus driver, the school teacher, the college student, the lab team, the juniors, the boy with brave eyes, and the father who read at bedtime. She did not know which bag of blood had gone to which person, or which smile had lifted which heavy heart. She only knew that giving travels in circles. It leaves your hand and comes back to you in another form. A safe shift, a full supply, a thank you note on a wall, a new leaf on a plant. Before she went to sleep, Aisha wrote one last line in her new blue notebook. She wrote it slowly, because she wanted to feel each word. When you can help, help. Do it with calm hands, clear, Words and a kind heart. You may save one life today, and you may also change many lives you will never meet. Then she closed the notebook and turned off.